anger was a big theme that came up this week. Hers, mine, society's even. And my therapist said something very interesting. She said, a lot of women find it very difficult to express their anger because of the way they're brought up and what people expect from them. And so from a young age, they get quite held, and it's much harder for them to, So I thought that was interesting. And obviously it made me think about, our marriage, and was she able to express herself through anger? Was I? When my therapist said, women find it hard to express their anger, I thought, you could have fooled me. But actually, then I thought about it more, and the funny thing is, it made me think a lot about this weekend away we had a few years ago now, in the country with her Uncle Pete. He's a farmer. I don't know what he farms. There were no sheep, cows. There was no turnips or cabbages or anything like that. I mean, there were some chickens, I suppose. Not many, but not enough to, base their business on. And, they were roaming quite free and open. And, they weren't the blind, beatless monstrosities that provide supermarket eggs these days. So. Anyway, Pete's a farmer, and that's his title, so that's what he's known as, Pete the Farmer. Anyway, so we had a long drive down, and my ex-wife had one of her migraines, so she'd gone to bed early, and Pete, he's known as Pete. Pete and I stayed up, and we bonded over some local scrumpy that had been gifted to him by a lunatic neighbour. It was proper stuff, real. It was a barrel, just like a wooden barrel full of straw and dead wasps and stuff. You got to pick them out, but quality stuff. And when he first started serving it, it was in half-pint glasses, and I thought, it's a bit tight. It had been a long drive down, and I was, gasping for a proper drink cup. Anyway, so he knew. We had 3 of them, and I got up to go and have a pee, and the old legs gave way. I mean, not proper, they didn't fall over, but they're all rubbery, and he was just laughing. But we stayed up quite late, probably past 1 by the time I got to bed, which no doubt didn't endear me to my beloved. Anyway, the next morning we had a nice fry up, and Pete asked if I could help him with something. He told me that he'd been having a problem with a dominant male squirrel, which was causing havoc out the back. And I thought, yeah, fine. It evaded every attempt he had made to capture it or kill it or whatever he'd been doing. But he'd found an old supermarket trolley abandoned in a local ford, a little bit of water. And so he'd sort of used his welding tool. He was very gifted that way. To build a cage that he was going to trap this rogue squirrel in. Interesting. So anyway, we took it out, put it under a tree, camouflaged it, propped the door open, filled it with nuts, and then went inside. And 20 minutes later, we heard this demonic noise, rushed out the back, and there it was, this squirrel captured in the cage. It was flinging itself against the bars. It already had blood, on its face. Bits of its fur were coming off. And I might have imagined this, but it had red eyes, like staring at you. And it was just making this unearthly squeal. Horrible thing, but amazing at the same time. And 10, 20 minutes went by, and this thing was it became a bald, bloodied pulp, smashing into the bars. It was absolutely terrifying. And then just when he thought it'd stop, exhausted, and raise up again, this satanic squeal. Unbelievable. And, well, clearly Pete didn't want to go anywhere near it. So he had this idea to bring this horror to an end. He thought he'd drown the critter. Yeah. So he got like a wheelie bin sort of thing. He used the hose, filled it with water, and then very carefully with a long, long pole, I must say, he sort of levered up the cage carrying this monstrosity in it, and he put it in the wheelie bin full of water. And I thought, oh well, that's finally put in. No, none of it. This thing went absolutely mental, smashing around. The bin was rattling, and it must have gone on for 5, possibly 10 minutes. I don't know. This thing would not die. It was terrifying. I mean, the bin wasn't quite sort of going from side to side, but it was moving. And well, yeah, eventually that was it. But wow, I mean, staggering. Anyway, I suppose, why have I been thinking about that story? I think it's about anger, and I think in a lot of marriages, maybe ours, everything gets subsumed. We compromise. All energy becomes diffused, and because you don't want to have constant rows, you don't want to have squabbles, but everything just sort of dissipates. And now I find myself here in Eastbourne, trying to pick up the pieces and start again. And I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking, maybe I need a bit more of that squirrel in me. That's an interesting thought.